guys, we've got Abi Roach on Skype.
From the legendary Hotbox.
Don't know.
Hi, what's going on?
We are very good. Very happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Missed you at the Canadian Cannabis Awards.
No, I didn't miss her. She was there.
You saw her.
So, yeah, hanging out in the washroom where all the cool kids hang out.
I missed it.
It was good.
It was fun.
Missed it.
Yeah.
So, lady, tell us what's going on. What's going on with you and the Hotbox Holdings?
All kinds of crazy stuff. So we're actually, I can't really talk too much about it, but we're actually looking at merging with another group of old school head shops and moving on along. And I'll be dealing with like all the branding and products and all the fun stuff that would come with it.
Cool. I have one of her smell-proof clutches. It's like a bag. It's like there's lots of smell-proof bags.
Mm-hmm.
This is an actual one. Like I use it on red carpets. Like it's really pretty. It's really nice. She designs more stuff that women actually want. Like not just. It's a level up, classier products.
And we also designed a brown one for the dude. So if you want like a Merce, we have a Merce as well.
Lester, you want a Merce? You know you do.
Well, I'd have to see it if it's high fashion, like you said. Make me look.
Abby, what do you do? What do you do with Norml? What are you like? Aren't you?
So I'm executive chair of Norml Canada. Norml is, for those who don't know, has been around since 1970. It was founded by Hugh Hefner and a lawyer named Keith.
Because that's normal. Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
I represent all of Norml Canada. Essentially, I'm the executive chair. There's a group of the board is comprised of about, I think we have 6 members and mostly lawyers. So it's me and a sea of lawyers. So it's pretty exciting. Today I'm on a call for representing Canada for international drug law reform. So it's everything from cannabis to opiate. So it's a forum for the UN essentially. So there's representatives from all different levels of government in Canada. The other day I was on I was at a meeting for CAMH, so the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. Mm-hmm. So I sit on their advisory board of, it's actually to educate other educators. So the CAMH is creating a program to educate doctors, nurses, principals, teachers, really first point of contact. And it's really important that Norml participate. Because we bring a really leveled, realistic view to cannabis as opposed to, a psychiatrist or a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, that's very cool. Can you, because we've just chatted and she jumped right in and we're assuming everyone knows who Abi fucking Roach is. How did you start your cannabis journey? How did you come to the plants and like where you are today? Just brief.
Oh my God, do we have like?
We've got all kind of time.
I got a gynecologist appointment coming up.
I started out as a kid essentially making jewelry and selling it on Queen Street. That was my first entrepreneurial venture.
Mm-hmm.
There I met Robin Ellens, who owns The Friendly Stranger. I met a bunch of other vendors. I learned how to use hemp for jewelry. I also learned a lot about cannabis from all the roadies that I would meet outside of the that would teach me all kinds of stuff. So I really had, it was like, I like to call it a street level entry education into cannabis of, just like drunk roadies sitting and telling me things as a 13-year-old. So I did that for a long time. Yeah. I started consuming cannabis when I was, I think, 14. I went to a Black Crowes concert. If anyone is, I'm aging myself here. Some hippie passed me a joint, and I took a toke, and that was the beginning of my love affair with cannabis. And when I was, just turned 20, I had a choice of what to do with my life, and I chose to do what I love, and I love cannabis, and I love Kensington Market, and I love business. So I opened up Rotorama, which is now the Hotbox.
Cool.
Yeah, press from there, and I've done all.
I got a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I got a question. At 19 years of age, where did you find where the hell did you find passion to
motivation
know what you want to do?
Because she's no fucking millennial.
No.
Yeah, right.
I was always a passionate entrepreneur. So I always say some people are born to be great artists. Some people are born to be mathematicians. Some people are just like natural actors. I was born with an entrepreneurial spirit, right? I remember as a kid, going to like do people's gardening and like, I've never really held a job. So as a 19-year-old, I was old enough to do what I wanted to do. I had my own little room and some little cockroach infested.
Didn't we all?
I didn't want to go to Frosty. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a shopkeeper in Kensington Market. That was my dream. So I made it happen.
Have you been to the Hotbox?
I haven't yet.
What? Okay, so that was the first. It was Lyft 2 years ago, and I was brand new to this industry or this space, and I got invited by Cy Williams from High Canada to go to this lounge in Kensington Market. I waited in line like everyone else because it was like a private event or private before or after, whatever. Right. And I saw my first dab rig, like a big giant fan, and the food was infused. They had little cards on them and stuff. And then we went outside to the patio, and it was amazing. I was having the time of my life. I could have been anywhere in the world the way she had it done in the back. Like, it was a beautiful hot summer day, and there was really great vibes.
I hear nothing but good things about it.
It was fun. It was really, really fun. I was overwhelmed. I like totally geeked out. Plus, I saw Abby twice, and I didn't say hello. I was totally like, oh my God, because when I was sort of coming to the plant and doing some research, I had watched some news shows like on, I believe, CBC at like 6 o'clock and stuff like that with my son, my adult son, and we watched Abby. So I was like, I kind of fangirled, which I never do. I'm like, I can't say hi. She's busy. She's way too busy for this. Now we're good.
Well, once you do hear your name, and if you do take a second to dig in a little bit, you are super fascinating. And the fact that you put everybody on the same plane, everybody, I think that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I really try and create a very inclusive environment as well. I always, if you walk into my store and look at my staff, we're a diverse group of people of all different ages and all different lifestyles, backgrounds, races, sexualities, right? I always believe that, the Hotbox is a place for everybody. So it's important to me that the staff that we hire speaks to you. So when you walk in, there's an immediate relationship between you and the person that's serving you, right? That makes you feel welcome. So we welcome everybody. We have our little set of rules. And
what are the rules?
The rules. So people laugh at the rules, but they've never owned a cannabis lounge before. So you can't laugh until you own one, right? And
okay.
Ink Entertainment and stuff, they're going to be like, we're going to be the next Lowell Cafe. It's like, well, you're going to want my rules because I know. So rule number 1 is no mooching, no fishing, which means you can't just come up to a table and be like, yo, bro, can I have a toke? Not allowed.
Okay.
Other people's space, really important. There's no dealing. Obviously, if I was going to deal, I would deal.
Right. If there's going to be dealing, it's going to be Abby.
It's how we've stayed open for a really long time as well, is because we have been really strict about the BYOP. Mm-hmm. So it kind of allowed us to surf the gray line of the law, as I like to call it, right? It's like, it's not really illegal to let someone consume on your property. It's kind of a half a possession count, but we're not selling you anything and we're not letting you sell anything. So, which is a much bigger charge, right. And was prior to legalization. And then the other rules are no sleeping, which is allowed all the time.
No sleeping.
All the time.
Wow. I'm surprised that's not number 1.
No sleeping over there, dummy.
Nobody ever asked us to enforce any of these rules. These were just the rules that I sort of came up with in 2003 when we opened up the lounge part of the business as things that just made common sense, right? It's like, you don't want kids hanging out. That's number 1. And now that the Cannabis Act has passed, you definitely don't want a bunch of kids hanging out.
Right.
So always we were 18 plus, and then once legalization started rolling in, we turned to 19 plus. We used to allow kids with their parents, but then we had somebody like freak out on Reddit that somebody had a baby.
Okay.
On like the baby was not getting high. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was crazy. So I had to put a kibosh to that, which kind of sucked because it was nice to have a family-friendly environment, right?
Yeah.
And it could only be your guardian. It couldn't be like your older brother or something, right? Like it had to be your guardian prior. But we haven't allowed that in close to 5 years now. And those are the rules. And
Fucking Reddit.
Right. Now, I've heard that the rules from the Hotbox have been the baseline for setting laws somewhere.
Yeah. So pretty much like all the lounges that exist right now use our rules. Well, the lounges that have survived legalization. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But Denver, Colorado adopted our rules as sort of a baseline as well. Okay. So and then in Jamaica, the tea house license is based around the Hotbox as well. I worked very closely at one point when I was working in Jamaica. I was working with a group that's now called Cannabis Jamaica. So when they were first starting their journey into legal cannabis, I was doing marketing for them, and I worked closely with the Minister of Industry, and help them sort of formulate some rules around what would work in terms of.
What do you got going on in Jamaica right now? Your Hotbox Jamaica, what is that?
So down there, we just got our trademark, which is great because that took a really long time. So we got our Jamaican trademark.
Congratulations.
So we own the word Hotbox, and we own the word highly as well in Jamaica. And we have a bed and breakfast, so it's a guest house with a beach. And your breakfast is included. And we have 4 rooms, air conditioning, whatever else not. It's on par with like I'd say any all-inclusive, but way more fun. And then all that runs out of there. So we do. I always like to say that Hotbox isn't about cannabis itself. It's about the experiences where cannabis is a part of, right? So we have the ganja farm tour, but then we also do a lot of tours around Jamaica that are. I base them on what I love about the island, right? Like the places that I love to go to. So we have one day that's like a mystical waters tour. It's almost like a natural spa. So we take you to a place called Firewater. You can like leg yourself on the water. It's like super cool. And then from there you get a massage, and then we take you to Little Duns. So if anyone's familiar with the north coast of Jamaica, there's the Big Duns River Falls, which is essentially owned by the government. But across the road, there's Little Duns, and that's where the waterfalls meet the ocean. It's amazing. Okay. That's my spot, and it's run by local people. They build it, they manage it, they make their whole life is, there's a whole economy that runs on that spot. And it was really important to me to bring people to places where you're supporting the local economy as opposed to going to the tourist trap where you're like giving money back to the government. Because these people work really hard and make these places really beautiful and really homely and really special. And if you really want to experience Jamaica on a different level, give us a call.
Yeah. What do you think of the Canadian Jamaican connection? Like, what do you think of what's happening there? The big business and all the big, like, I'm excited, hopeful, but concerned.
But the cannabis industry as a whole globally, right? So it's not just Canada or just Jamaica. Anywhere where cannabis is going to be legal, big companies are taking a foothold in, right? I predict that once the U.S. legalizes, probably within the next 5 years, I would imagine it'll be federally legal in the U.S. I know in Florida there was a large Canadian company that was lobbying there against flower, like against actual like cannabis flower.
Serious?
But yeah, because they had a first mover advantage on oils. Right, so they had a lot of money based in oil. So they lobbied really hard. So if you look at Florida. I think it was like the first 3 years of their medical program, there was no flower. You couldn't buy a legal joint because lobbied against, right? So we have to be weary of lobbyists and lobbying and what big companies are lobbying for, because sometimes lobbying for over-regulation is just to stifle out the market, right? So, in Jamaica, there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening, and again, it's stifling out the market. If you go to a Jamaican cannabis dispensary, a local Jamaican, when I buy cannabis, I buy it straight from the farmer. And if I'm like driving around at night or whatever, I just pull up to a bar and I buy a little bag of weed for like $2 or $1.
Done
and
it.
Go down
and some bananas and a mango.
If you go to a legal dispensary there, you're looking at about $10 US
for a pre-roll, isn't it? A pre-roll's $10 American dollars.
So, like, that system is not built for the Jamaican population. That system is built purely for tourism. And that cuts out a huge part of the population from being able to access legal product, right? So even if they were using it as a medical product, because it is a medical program, apparently,
Right.
they couldn't get their medicine because they could never afford it, right? So these are things that we have to take into consideration. And again, large corporations will lobby very hard for very strict regulations. So me and you are cut out.
So how long do you think it'll be before that is there's something done about that, or that is moving into a more positive direction where the
Well,
community is?
well, you see the bubble exploding now, right? Like, I've been in the game for 20 years and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a millionaire. I can tell you that much, right? Like, we
Right.
really pay rent most months. So, you know,
Oh.
I always say that this idea that you're going to say cannabis and click your heels 3 times and money will rain out of the sky.
Right.
It's falling out of my ass. Just kidding.
Like, and it's not just the small guys that are struggling now, it's the big guys that are struggling. You see a lot of layoffs, there's a lot of companies going bankrupt. The bubble burst, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once Bay Street and Wall Street pulled their money out because they were done with it, there's no more money to go in, right? So I think once the industry stabilizes back to a normal, realistic sort of level, right, then we'll start to see things move along, right? Because I think the big companies are starting to realize that they need the little guy to make it, and I need the big guy to make it, right? Like, if I don't hook up right now with a larger corporation with a bit more money in it, I'm gonna have to close,
So,
right? And that's
Wow.
reality.
What
Wow.
happens? Okay, so Abby Roach, what market are you considered, and what do you consider? Are you white, black, illicit, legacy? What are you calling it? And what market are you?
Unregulated. I think
Unregulated.
it is the perfect word. It's, black market makes it sound like it's like
It's shady.
illicit and bad, which is not true. Most
Right.
people that are not licensed just don't have the financial capacity to switch over to the regulated system, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I remember going to prior to Project Claudia, going to city hall meetings and meetings at Queen's Park, where literally hundreds of people within the cannabis industry were begging for licensing. All they wanted was licensing. They just wanted to pay taxes and have a license.
Right.
To me, that's not black market. To me, that's somebody that is trying to do the right thing and trying to be a part of a movement and trying to be a part of a new industry that's emerging,
Right.
that they've been part of for their whole lives, and they want to become licensed, but they're not allowed to. They're being blocked, right? So to me, unregulated is the right word. I feel unregulated right now. I've regulated myself into existence, right?
Right.
I've spent a whole year essentially fighting with regulators to figure out how can I exist without a license? How can I exist without, this, that, and the other? And
Right.
we managed to do it. I worked with Toronto Public Health really closely, and we're now essentially the only legal cannabis lounge in Canada. And it's not because somebody came to me and was like, you know what, we're going to license you. That wasn't it. It was me being proactive and talking with them and saying, okay, instead of closing us down and leaving quadriplegics and cancer patients out on the street, what can we do to keep this place open, right? So now the trick is we've been given the green light. I have letters and all kinds of stuff in the city of Toronto saying that I comply with Ontario law. But the trick now is we've lost all our ability to make an income to pay the rent and pay the people, because we have to get rid of our food, we have to get rid of this, we have to get rid of that in order to be compliant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the trick is, how do we survive compliance?
And that's possibly partnering with a bigger guy, right?
And it's interesting, the deal, I can't really talk about it too much because it's not yet, but the partnership that I chose, I had 3 different offers on the table, and the partnership that I chose was to go with people that I know and people that I respect and companies that I respect and that come from the same background as me, and amalgamate with them, because I think it's we're stronger together than we are alone.
Higher together.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's no way that I could make it right now without creating some kind of deal with someone else to survive. I always used to say, you would never see me at like marches and and protests. And I always said, my protest is going to work every morning and putting the key in the door and
Right.
employing
Yeah.
and doing what I think is right and not getting busted for it because I'm smart enough to figure it out. So
Yeah.
That is the big thing.
it works. That it's a kind of activism that works. Sitting with politicians is activism that works. Creating an environment where we change a social norm around something works. Raving and clubs, that was the time. Those club kids that you would see on Geraldo. I used to party with those guys like every Friday. And all my friends were gay, and we would go out and they would be all dressed up, club kids to the nine with crazy outfits. We spent all Friday night sewing, so Saturday we could go and go to the rave and party it up and like all crazy 9 foot, like big, whatever. But the point is those same club kids that just wanted to be out and gay and open and be themselves on a Saturday night, when they went home, they had to be as straight as possible because people would beat you up on the street.
Right.
But now, if you make a gay joke at a party, this is 30 years later, if you just make like it, some people look at you like, what?
Yeah.
What? This was 1994. Like, get out of here, right?
Yeah.
So the cannabis movement to me and the gay movement go hand in hand. And the way that I ran the Hotbox and decided to do my activism was followed by what my friends did in the gay scene, which was just like be out, be proud, So the concept behind opening up the Hotbox was for it to be as normal to have a cup of coffee and a joint with your friend as it was to go for a beer and have a conversation. And it worked, right? People like my mother who voted Stephen Harper and, conservative Jewish family that I come from, change their minds. Don't tell my dad, but my mom voted for Trudeau because she wanted it legalized, right? So
don't tell my dad.
Right.
Oh my, please, yeah. But at the same point, that's what it takes to change the law, because the laws only change when people change their minds. So if the general population doesn't agree with you and doesn't think that the law should be changed, they're not going to vote for it. The Trudeau's election happened because of cannabis, right?
Right.
It was fiscally conservative, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, true.
Because parents didn't want to see their kids going to jail for a joint, and and they were tired of it, and the baby boomers knew that it wasn't the gateway to hell, and the law. There was places like the Hotbox and Vapor Central and all those places that came prior to Trudeau that really made that change, where we opened up people's minds and hearts and changed the way that they viewed cannabis, as opposed to the devil's lettuce. It was now just a normal part of life and a normal part of Canadian conversation.
Yeah, but you can't leave out the fact that you are so well educated in so many realms to be able to push this narrative for cannabis.
She's also coming at it from a kind place. There's no chilly vibe off of Abi. Like you go to these, you get a welcoming, kind vibe, which is very rare. Unfortunately, it's very rare in the community as it sits right now. Everyone's angry, rightfully so, for a lot of people. Right. But you don't get that from Abi. So I think when somebody says, "Why her?" I have a feeling the doors she's kicking down and knocking in, she's more welcome because she's pleasant. Not only is she educated and kind, she's pleasant and willing to listen.
Thank you. That's so sweet, actually.
You owe me.
No, but it's real. It's real. It's because, like, for everything that I've been looking through and finding information about you, the way you do it, nobody's doing it like you. Like, you are for the people.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a lot more of it that can happen. I think, you also have to remember that cannabis changed from where it was, which was behind closed doors, into an industry. So when you get an industry, what happens is that, you get I keep saying Bay Street, but you know what I mean? Like, the Bay Street come in, and they come from a different corporate culture. They don't come from the same background as me. They haven't spent 20 years serving cannabis consumers on a daily basis, learning about their lives, listening to their stories, and really interacting with them. They come from, I need to check all my I's and dot all my T's and make sure that all the numbers are in place and that the pitch deck looks good. And I had to learn how to work with that as well, right? everything in life is a learning curve. Life itself is a university, right? So, I went from learning how to operate a small business to being able to speak to government officials, and I've spent the last 2 years really figuring out how does corporate cannabis work and how can I work with them. And it's amazing to me that, sometimes almost daily, I get emails from the corporate cannabis guys. They're like, oh, what do you think of this? Or, like, can you help me out with something, right? So
you charge, right? Consulting fee?
Yeah, that's sort of the next step for me, right?
Definitely.
It's amazing to me that I've managed to sort of open up the doors and be able to communicate with all these different people from all these different backgrounds, and be able to educate them at the same time and be able to make a living for the last 20 years doing it, right?
Hashtag boss.
Yeah.
This month, so
God.
Well,
maybe. So let's jump right into the lottery.
Yeah. What's
Get you fired up about that.
It goes against everything that legalization stood for. It made our government look stupid. It made legalization look like a joke. It made our system of governance and our governing systems, like the AGCO, look like a joke, right? And it created a system of corruption. And what else can I say? There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
The one is everything that public health and safety stands for, essentially.
How often do you go to Jamaica?
I used to live there. I would say 8 months out of the year. Legalization. Then I got back here. So I ran the business here. I ran the business there, and then I had a side business in Jamaica as well, where it was called Hype Creators, where I did like social media management and marketing. I started out with hotels and small businesses, and then I moved to music. And then I started working. I don't know if you're familiar with an artist called Richie Spice, but I worked with Richie for, I'd say, like 3 years. I was Richie Spice. So you were like some cute African girl, like writing him, "I love you, Richie."
It was you.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Richie's big.
On top of all the other stuff, but that was, I think, my favorite job ever. An amazing musical artist that I really respect and have listened to for a very long time. I rebranded his entire image. I rebranded his everything about him, and really helped him come out and restart his career. And I really love that job, and he's a great guy.
You guys still in touch?
Yeah, of course. I love Richie. Yeah, he's for sure. Yeah. Excellent. So my resume is wide, but I applied as a brand manager at one of the big LPs, and I got a reply saying that I don't have enough experience.
What?
Party was like, really?
Oh my God. So I've got a question, because you would know more than I would on this. Hiring the big LPs, are they allowed to hire the unregulated market people? And are they allowed to hire people with records?
I don't have a record, so the only reason that they wouldn't hire me is because they don't understand my background.
Okay, so other people with records, can they hire you?
I think for certain jobs, I don't think you can work in the grow or whatever else not. I'm not sure. Erin Gratton is probably the lady to talk to about that one. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think for like marketing, branding, I don't see why not. Like, I don't think it's really an issue. You're not a security risk of any sort. But I think the main problem is, it's funny, a friend of mine that transitioned over from during legalization, he transitioned to one of the big LPs, and he said to me, he's like, "Abs, you smell like weed." I was like, "What do you mean you smell like weed?" He's like, "That's what they call it. You smell like weed. Like, you're too old school, right? Right? Wow. You smell like weed, you don't smell like cannabis, so that's why they won't hire you."
Wow.
And so true. Right? It's like, that's the vibe you get. I'll apply for things, and they're like, "Yeah, you smell like weed."
Wow.
I had one company that we were going to do products with, and they did a market research thing, and she didn't know what the word hotbox meant. So she said to me, she's like, "Oh, you know why people recognize your brand? It's because there's a yoga studio in Vancouver called Hotbox Yoga." She's like,
"Oh my God.
But the word hotbox."
What do you think about the CEOs and stuff that don't smoke? What do you think? If they actually are not consumers of the plant, and they are not even consumers, they don't love and respect the plant on that level.
It's gonna show in their financials sooner or later.
Right.
I was looking at a chart today of the best-selling brands at the OCS, and number one was Tweed, because they obviously Canopy has the most SKUs and they have the most money and the best. Anyways, but the second was Pure Sunfarms. Pure Sunfarms. They're like this tiny little company.
Yeah, tiny little one.
They have really nice weed. They have great brand, and they came in second. Why? Because they have a well-priced product that is fantastic, and they have good marketing that is simple, right? It's not trying to be too cool. It's not trying anything. It's
trying to be too cool.
Yeah, like every photo is just simple, right? It smells like weed, and people like them.
Have you bought legal weed?
I bought Pure Sun Farms. It's a really nice box. I'll spend the $30, and I really enjoyed it. Actually, it was a really nice product. I get given a lot of free samples and whatever else. I have not enjoyed most of it, to be honest. I've got I really I'm not that I'm particular about my cannabis, but I just I want it to smell good, I want it to look good, and I want it to taste good.
Right.
Well, you're a connoisseur. You've been around for a long time. Your word means a lot.
In my throat, or you know what I mean, or the new funny, or impossible to break up. Or when you break it up, it looks like it's already been through the vaporizer because it's brown. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
His pet peeve is when it's not cured and it's just microwaved, and it literally looks like someone's already baked it and then they sold it to you.
They sold it to you.
Anyways, I'm not into that. So and I think that's what I liked about Pure Sun Farms too, is that it was actually you could tell it was properly cured. Right? These are things that are important to me as a cannabis consumer. I don't want to the wool can be pulled over my eye, right? And I think, again, these are the winners and losers of this industry, and it will all flesh itself out.
Eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah. I had San Rafael, the tangerine, something,
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, it was for a cooking class. I had to buy, to stay within compliance in order to get the certificate. You had to have legal weed, and it was all the same. Everyone in the class, all 30 people, had to buy it from the same place.
You like it?
Well, it was fine, but I had shitloads of my own weed at home, and my husband's Jewish. We don't like to spend if we don't have to.
My guy that shows up at my house and brings me super nice quads for not very much. He's got better prices. He's a really nice guy. He's always got really good weed. It's really good quality. And until we get to that level where a consumer can purchase really fantastic quality cannabis at a fair price in an environment that they can relate to and want to be at, or buy it from someone that's relatable, that they don't feel like they're the wool's getting pulled over their eye, or it's too cool. We have to just chill out. It's a consumer packaged good now. It's a legal thing, right? So, the same reason that you could buy a pair of Nikes at Athlete's World, at the Nike store, at this store, whatever, you know what I mean? But why go to that particular store to buy that particular pair of shoes, right?
Right.
So, again, it goes to winning and losing in the retail market is, who's going to really grasp the eye of the beholder, right? Because if you look at Calgary, for example, where there's, I think, 200 stores or something?
Wait, more, 234 or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. So, where do you go buy the same thing, and why do you go there instead of the guy down the street, right? And so, I think the retail game itself, there's a lot of stuff that people aren't thinking about, and there's a lot of innovations that are sitting quietly in the background waiting.
Right.
I think, in terms of product development, there's a lot of stuff that people aren't even imagining yet that, I have calls all the time where people are asking me for advice about products, and I'm like, but why?
But why?
Product, just to educate a consumer how to use it, right? You have to imagine that in a retail environment, the salesperson has to teach the consumer how to use this particular thing.
Right.
And for me as the business owner, if it's costing me 15 minutes of dedicated time
to explain that.
Consumer that may or may not purchase this thing and may or may not use it properly, when they could just buy it, 1 second, recommend something else and move on to the next person. Your product is going to get pushed down to the bottom of the pile because it's too expensive to educate the consumer on at the retail.
What's the hokiest, stupidest thing that somebody's come to you with?
Oh God, I can't remember. There's been so many.
There's got to be one that sticks out. No.
Great things, right? And then there's a lot of things where somebody will talk to me, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe don't do this, but I've got this really great, great concept for you to move on. I think terpene pillows was kind of weird. It was like,
terpene pillows is kind of weird. See the CBD workout wear? I'm like, what is that? CBD workout wear. I'm not working out anyway, so oh my God.
Into your skin.
Yeah, I guess that's what they were thinking about. I use cannabis as like a trade. Like I trade tomatoes for weed, and I get my weed grown, my great weed from a chicken farmer. We traded weed for a cottage this summer. We traded weed for a houseboat. Like I use it, and some of the best weed we've ever had are from like the old school, like the Nonas, the tomato farmers, and their gardening is their life. So now, and it's just like another herb. It's another plant in their garden that they're particular about. I've had some great stuff.
So tell me, Abby, what do you think? Do you think Canada's going to get it right? And how long do you think it's going to take for Canada to get it right?
I think within the next 5 years, this conversation will be null and void. We'll be laughing at how silly it all was, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think it will take time, right? The government needs to calm down and understand that they don't need to like overthink it. It's not that this is not that complicated, right? Like they're just overthinking it. Lotteries and stuff, like, come on, this is ridiculous. Like just overthinking.
And what about from the consumer end? What should the consumer, the people be?
I think once we figure out the selling of, once we figure out the quality issues, and once we get a product variety that's comfortable to all consumer levels, I think more people will switch, right? Right now, the big thing is that it's government weed. The government's controlling it. The government, well, it's a legal product. Government controls your sugar and your coffee too, but
right.
Right, but they control it's a legal substance, so it's going to be regulated. So it doesn't mean that it's government; it just means that it's regulated by the government. Trust me, I have to have this conversation 100 times a day. It's like government weed. It's not government weed.
I like that you do that, because then that just it is a form.
Saves me from having to do it. I'm going to send the trolls to Abby. Get out of my DMs.
No, well, it helps getting everybody onto the right path, because some people get emotional about it, and the government, when they're saying government, they want to be too emotional about it. But when you say it like how you do,
nobody wants Babylon in their business, right?
For real. No, serious.
Yeah, it's true. I'm a bit of a libertarian that way. But again, once everybody just moves on and gets over it, and I think right now what we're seeing too is that everyone sort of is over it. We've had cannabis be the hype thing for the last year, and people are burnt out. Customers are burnt out. People are burnt out. Businesses burnt out. Everyone's burnt out. Like, weed's burnt.
They all need to go on a mushroom trip.
Yeah, all about this mushroom thing. I don't know if I'm about, I'm not.
You don't know?
All of society like tripping balls all day long.
I'm always tripping balls.
Yeah.
What do you think of mushrooms as the next big thing? You don't know?
I don't know. I haven't done mushrooms since probably like 20 years now. I have a half quarter mushroom someone gave me for my birthday 2 years ago. It's still in the same box they gave it to me, and it's not. I don't drink alcohol. I'm not really into mushrooms. It's like, to each your own, though, right? It's right. What you do with your life and your body should not be controlled by the government if you're not harming anybody else.
Or controlled by the trolls under the bridge. Nobody.
Yeah. I feel that way about sex work. I feel that way about a lot of different things, not just about drugs, right? But drugs are, they're a health issue. They're not a criminal issue. You know, I think you know what Portugal did with around drugs makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Why would
huge.
you go to jail for being a heroin junkie?
Hmm.
You know, as opposed to just giving them treatment. Like that would just it costs about the same, and you get a productive human being come out instead of a criminal.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because Portugal,
So,
what? There's more help than there is people that need help.
oh, exactly. So, you know, and sex work again, like I'm very passionate about sex workers' rights, about the fact that we need a legal sex work framework. I'm far too lazy to be a sex worker, but my friends who are sex workers, I'm a very strong ally for it.
Everybody knows that's how I came to
Yeah.
be. pedaled my ass for a roof over my head, for food in my belly, for shelter. That's I posted the other day. You guys can suck my dick when it comes to that stuff because I used my body to live, to survive.
Preach.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, maybe that's my next like big passionate like
Yeah.
gonna move on and help out my sex worker friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's important that people advocate for people's freedoms and liberties and not be creating a class of criminals out of people that are not criminals, right? And you know, we see it now with cannabis. Obviously, you know, we spent 100 years criminalizing a class of people that had no reason to be in jail in the first place, had no reason to fear for their lives, and are now just like normal people doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the world hasn't exploded, and pigs haven't flown
The
yet.
world hasn't exploded.
That's real talk.
I think we can start moving away from stigmatizing laws and start moving forward to create systems that are realistic and are functional for all kinds of draconian laws.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't fight for legalization for there to be a free-for-all. I fought for it to be a legal, regulated consumer packaged good. That's what I fought for. So, you know, if I have to reincarnate myself in a year or two from now to do something different because of whatever screw up and hiccup that there was, that's life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You can't cry over spilt milk, right? But you know, I'm not for a free-for-all. That's for sure.
So you get lots of interviews and people talk to you about all kinds of things, and you have lots of airtime. Is there anything that you haven't said, or anything that you've held back? There's something that you know, a message or anything, or are you good?
I think we had a pretty deep convo about how I feel about things, and yeah, we did good.
What do you think of the words, like people's intentions and like the words we're using? You can't use cannabis, can't use black market, you can't use it. Do you think the correct wording needs to be the correct wording, or do you think it's the intention behind words, or it depends on your?
I think we're over snowflaking it.
Holy shit, are we ever? God damn.
Right. This is church today.
I forget. For 20 years, I don't think the word pothead is derogatory. I'm very proud to be a pothead.
Yeah.
You know, like to me, the word pothead comes from the word deadhead. I think, you know, deadheads are kind of like, you know, again, it's a sign of the times where 20 years ago, everybody knew what a deadhead was, right?
Yeah.
And a pothead was just somebody who like loved pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not derogatory in any kind of sense of the word. Stoner, you get stoned.
My husband's
too, right?
I love him in my life, and he's the biggest stoner I've ever met.
Right? Like there's certain words that like I just love, right? Like I love the word spliff, I love the word PB. These are part of the culture. They're part of the cannabis culture. And we need to not try, like there's this like move to sanitize, like constantly try and sanitize and make it less scary for the new consumer. And you know, my friend Steve D'Angelo and I are both old school people, and we've had this conversation a million times where you know, your soccer mom that maybe has never consumed or consumed once in high school and wants to try it again, and it, you know, if she loves it, she's gonna turn into into one of us in no time at all, right? It's
sort of what happened to me.
Yeah, that conversion rate of like being a new consumer is very minimal. If the person likes it, they're going to become a consumer. That's it. Bottom line, right? I don't like alcohol. Never did. Never. It just wasn't my buzz, not my vibe, and I don't buy alcohol. Right? That's just the line. There's nothing you can do to convert me. There's no amount of less intimidation around alcohol that you could teach me.
What about the THC or CBD alcohol? What do you think of that? Like removing the alcohol and out?
Yeah.
We got time, Abby. We have time.
Okay, so again, we're gonna hit a situation, okay, where again it's customer education level, right? If there's no education around it, then people are gonna get confused. So if I drink a 6-pack once a week with my buddies and I go to the cannabis store, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try this, and I buy it, and it's sold to me as if it was alcohol. And I go to the party, and I've got 6 10-milligram tall cans of sugary soda, right? And it's 10 milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
I drink one of these, and I get kind of like, right? But I'm expecting it to be a beer. I don't have a good experience. Then I have 3-4 of them. All of a sudden, in an hour, I'm over sugar. Like, there's so much sugar in my system. I've got 40 to 50 milligrams of cannabis. I have to pee every 5 seconds. 1 hour, half an hour to an hour onset. So, and then people have a bad experience and they won't come back. Right? So again, we have the same situation that I was speaking about before, where if there's no time to educate the consumer, because your Nova Cannabis or your Honey Pot or whatever 20 stores exist in Toronto past this year, 13 it is, I think it's going to be, the lines are huge. If there's no time for the bud tender to explain to you how to use something and why, then you're not going to get educated. You're going to have a bad experience, and you're just going to come back, or it's going to not be alcohol, and you're going to be like, "What the fuck was that?" Right? So there's a lot of issues around the way that we're rolling out things, and a lot of it has to do with the first point of interaction. So lounges are important for this. I always say when you go to the bar and you try an alcohol for the first time, so let's say you tried a really great vodka in a cocktail and you ask the bartender, whoa, that was delicious, what was that? And they explain it to you. Then you want to buy that again at the liquor store, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have points of interaction like lounges that can actually sell cannabis and cannabis derivative products and allow consumption in single serve portion on site, then we have a point of interaction where we can actually properly educate, properly market these products. If these points of contact don't exist, then it's going to be a serious problem for the industry.
And you were thinking this shit at 19? What
the
fuck? Is your dog there? Chewy, is that your dog?
Too old to come upstairs. She's 11.
Aww. I just wanted to see her.
Old and she has bad hips. Yeah, she's like,
Cute. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah, we so appreciate you taking the time.
Listen,
we're always looking for the ones that are just a little bit above the rest, the real.
Nice.
The people
Next
that
time I'll go to Brampton and I'm gonna hang out with you.
Definitely.
For sure.
I'm a young person. If I don't see the CN Tower, I'm lost.
She's so Toronto.
That's all right. Because if you can't make it down there, we'll go up there.
Yeah.
Sure.
You got to go to the Hotbox for Christ's
I have to. I know I do.
You're gonna have to
get my baptism in.
Get his baptism. Yeah,
right?
You bugger.
Well,
thank you.
So
right.
So
you know how it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you're gonna say give us a rhyme or a poem? What?
You're done with your last words, right?
Well, we didn't say where you can call us at, where you can whatever. I wanted to say 710.
710. Yeah, okay, no problem. Guys, you want to be a sponsor for the Green Room?
Yeah, you do.
You know you do. You could reach us at sponsor@cannabis.wiki, or you can reach us at 833-226-9454, extension 710.
Hey, it was my...
I know, I was waiting.
I exhaled so fast so I could say 710.
Right?
Or slide into our DMs and then we'll send you in the right direction.
Definitely. And for the ones that have events going on, conferences, expos, galas, awards.
Crawls and all.
You know it. Those will be going to the Cannabis Wiki website. We have a section specifically for that.
So what'd you think about chatting with Abi Roach?
I enjoyed it to the fullest.
She's really cool. Like, I used her as an educational thing for for my family. I mean, since I'm so new to cannabis and I wanted to, I've sort of flipped how I parent and educate everyone around me.
Mm-hmm.
So she was a good person. She's been on lots of the big CBC and, all the big news shows.
I just love intelligent people.
And she's kind. She's activism with kindness,
Yeah.
approachable. Like I don't have to worry that, you know.
Right.
And you can ask her anything. She'll explain on a kindergarten level up, right? Like she can.
That's dope.
She can. Yeah, it's really cool.
Good.
That's dope.
I've enjoyed myself.
And did you? I'm glad you wore a red sweater. It's better than the black one.
Oh man. Guys, yo, you always know where you can get your cannabis talk fresh and a little bit sticky. Keep it locked to Cannabis Wiki. The
Love
Green
it.
Room. And we out.
You freak.
Always.